Max Weber was born in 1864 in Erfurt, a small town in southeastern Germany. After finishing secondary school, Weber went to Berlin, where he obtained a degree in law and a doctorate in political economy. By 1896, when he was just 29 years old, he was appointed as a professor in economics at the University of Freiburg before moving on to teach political economy and economics at the University of Heidelberg. He then took a break from teaching and travelled around Europe before writing The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism and accepting an editorship of a sociological publication in 1903. In 1909, he began writing his book Economy and Society, where he stated sociology is a science which attempts to understand social action in order to provide an explanation of its effects. Weber's methodological approach is described as interpretive. Interpretivist sociologists believe the study of people should be different to studying the natural sciences. They aim to understand human behaviour and try to see the social world through the eyes of the people they're studying. They use methods such as in-depth interviews and participant observation to gain qualitative data, which is written data. Weber used the term Verstehen, which translates from German to English as human understanding, to explain what was unique about the social sciences. According to Weber, the social sciences are subjective as they are concerned with the inner states of people, in contrast to the natural sciences of objective facts, like physics, chemistry, and biology. An interpretivist sociologist takes an opposing methodological approach to a positivist sociologist like Emil Durkheim, who believed we should use scientific methods by testing hypotheses through gaining quantitative data, which is numerical data, in order to identify trends and patterns in society. Weber insisted that we human beings have inner states, so we understand the events of the world in which we live. The social sciences are concerned with the actions of human beings and how we constantly make judgments and evaluations which lead us to understand and interpret our environments. According to Weber, since the natural sciences don't require this type of understanding, the methods employed in the natural sciences are inadequate to the study of society. Weber distinguished between two types of understanding. Firstly, there's direct understanding, which relies on observation to understand the meaning of an act and confirm what has taken place. Secondly, there's explanatory understanding, which involves attaching meaning and motive to an act. Explanatory understanding contextualizes the action in order to construct reasons and assign motives. Weber was influenced by Karl Marx, but he disagreed with Marx's ideas on changing society. Marx believed theory should be linked to social and political action. However, Weber disagreed. Weber saw social theory as a search for historical patterns and relationships and believed we only gained knowledge of society by comparing different historical periods. Weber was less critical of society than Marx and believed that concepts in the social sciences should be neutral and not based on value judgments. Weber's observations on class came 60 years after Marx's writing. Unlike Marx, Weber didn't believe that the economic sphere was the sole determinant of class structure in society, and therefore Weber rejected Marx's claim that class conflict would be the inevitable outcome of economic forces in society. Marx restricted his analysis of capitalism to Western societies, primarily England, whereas Weber compared Western capitalism to Eastern economies, drawing upon the economic conditions in Germany, Russia, China, England, and France. Marx reduced social life to economy, stating that political, legal, and religious institutions exist on top of the underlying economic base. Weber, however, didn't see economic forces as the sole determinant of history and society, and instead believed that the capitalist economy developed due to the influence of various other spheres, such as religion, law, and politics. These spheres were subject to the process of rationalisation, which led to the rise of the modern Western society. The economic sphere was rationalised by commercial practices and technical rules calculated to produce profits through rational accounting methods. The rationalisation of the state sphere hastened the decline of monarchies by creating forms of leadership and governance based on principles of legal legitimacy and the universal application of law. The rationalization of law altered the principle of legal judgments by creating a system of decision-making based on universal legal principles and deductive reasoning. Weber's concept of rationalization referred to two trends in historical development. Firstly, the increasing reliance on technical knowledge in order to obtain control over the natural and social world. Secondly, the inclination of humans to free themselves from dependence upon magical thinking, with ideas of supernatural forces as a means of understanding the world. Humans were beginning to focus more on their empirical reality based on observations of what they could see to gain control over the world instead. Weber drew a distinction between legitimate forms of authority and being forced to obey orders on an involuntary basis, which he believed only happened to slaves. Weber stated it was possible to distinguish three types of authority throughout history. Firstly, there's charismatic authority. This type of authority is based on the unusual personal gifts of a particular leader. Charismatic authority involved a certain quality of an individual personality by virtue of which he is set apart from ordinary men and treated as endowed with supernatural, superhuman, or at least specifically exceptional powers or qualities. Examples of this type of authority are Hitler and Jesus, both of whom were capable of inspiring people to follow them and place complete faith in them. The authority of these types of leaders rests on their exceptional personal qualities as opposed to a rational or traditional basis. Secondly, there's traditional authority. This type of authority is a form of power based on established customs and inherited status. Traditional authority can be explained by looking at the traditional role of the monarchy and aristocracy in British society. During the Middle Ages, the original form of monarchy was replaced by a hereditary system with nobility based on inheritance. Tradition established the pattern of inheritance from father to eldest son. Queens only held the throne when they had no brothers. An example of this type of authority is the constitutional monarchy in the United Kingdom, which still has the ability to influence decisions made by elected politicians and hold them to account. In England, the monarch is still briefed regularly by the Prime Minister, and legislation is still approved by royal authority. Thirdly, there's rational authority. This type of authority is based on rules and procedures that are generally believed to be fair and impartial. Rational authority is a formal, rule-based authority, which has been compared to the behaviour found in the military. In the military, officers' authority rests on the power to give orders that should be obeyed without question in recognition both of their status and a rational acknowledgement of their ability to lead. The issuing of military orders and obedience to follow those orders follows a clearly established code of rules and regulations. Failure to obey a legitimate order can result in the swift application of sanctions. For example, in wartime, soldiers have been shot by their own side for refusing to obey orders. Weber put forward his theory of social class by looking at three distinct categories: class in relation to market situation, class in relation to different types of social action flowing from class interests, and the formation of social class in relation to the history of class struggle. Class refers to the number of people who have similar life chances which are represented by economic interests. Life chances are the possibilities arising from the use of goods and services by the market and the opportunities these chances present for income. Class situation is determined by life chances which arise when individuals sell skills and services on the market. The term market refers to the sphere in society in which economic goods and services are produced and exchanged. Class situation is determined by both the ownership of usable property, which creates returns on investments and income in the form of rent, and by opportunities which arise out of income and salaries received from the selling of services or skills. People can receive certificates and credentials through education to increase their life chances. These skills and services can be put up for sale in the market as people receive salaries and income through offering their skills and services, and therefore this type of class situation are not dependent on the ownership of property. Weber disagreed with the Marxist idea that society was broadly divided between the capitalist class and the working class. Weber believed that the deciding factor with regard to class was market situation. Some workers were more skilled than others, and therefore able to command a larger salary and enjoy more job security. Weber thought that to put these skilled workers in the same group as unskilled workers and to describe them as working class was to oversimplify the complexities of socio-economic class. Weber saw not two great class groups, but many different grades of occupational class, and he believed that the people within each particular class would enjoy broadly similar life chances. His view of class is better able to explain the importance of the middle class who don't easily fit in the Marxist model of society as divided between the capitalists and the workers. Weber saw a more complex picture involving four broad categories. A property-owning upper class, who are individuals with economic power. The professional middle class, who he also called the intelligentsia. The petit bourgeoisie, who are the lower middle class owners of small businesses, and the manual working class. Weber didn't see any evidence of the polarization of classes, but he did see evidence of an expanding middle class. He didn't believe in an inevitable collapse of capitalism, although he did recognize that those who occupied a common market position might take collective action to improve their situation. Weber theorized that people make judgments about others and confer status upon them largely based on their patterns of consumption, so how they spend what they earn, rather than how they earn their money. Weber believed that while class, status and power often overlap with one another, they are not as closely linked as Marxists suggest. This explains why some individuals and groups in society have higher status but less economic worth than others. Members of the aristocracy, for example, may have relatively little wealth when compared to the chief executive of a major corporation. Weber used the term party to describe not just political parties, but any organised group that sought to exercise power, for example, trade unions, pressure groups, and professional associations. Weber theorized that these groups compete for power in a similar way that classes compete for a share of the status. A party, Weber believed, could have an appeal that cut across class difference. For example, they could be based on national identity, or membership of a certain religious group, such as Catholics and Protestants in Ireland. One key idea that shows an important difference between Weber's view of social stratification and that of Marx is that Weber did not believe that economic wealth automatically brought with it greater power than that which can be exercised by a politician, a trade union leader, or a civil servant, for example. To criticise Weber, however, it can still be argued that the wealthiest members of society still tend to be the most powerful, while the poor remain powerless. There are common strands to both Marx and Weber, but also significant differences. Their ideas about social stratification had a significant impact on sociology and have been developed and redefined by later sociologists.